Okay, so the source we're looking at today is titled The Architecture of Choice and Conscience.
Hmm.
And I'm just going to dive right in because this one, it's not a study or a book. It's just a few lines of dialogue that feel more like a mirror than a text.
It's very minimalist, isn't it?
Yeah,
But it's the kind that, reveals the cracks in everything.
exactly. It's framed like a philosophical question, but really, it's an interrogation of your own self. It's asking, if you don't control every thought in your head, then who's actually driving the bus?
A question we'd probably rather not ask.
Right. So, welcome to the pause, where we're going to dig into the architecture of your own mind.
And I'm here to maybe check the structural integrity of it all.
Let's start with that title, The Architecture of Choice and Conscience. Architecture is such a specific word.
It is. It implies a blueprint, a design.
Not just, random chaos, which is what it feels like sometimes. It suggests the whole mess. It's built that way for a reason.
That's the crucial frame. We often use these liquid metaphors for the mind, like stream of consciousness.
Yeah, waves of emotion.
But architecture suggests something solid. Walls, doors, limitations. It suggests our minds have a built-in structure for how we make a choice and how we hear our conscience.
And the scary part is that the design might not be on our side. The source opens with this line that just feels like a trap. It says one more question,
Mm-hmm.
and then it drops this. If your thoughts aren't always under your control.
Let's just pause on that if for a second.
Right, because it's not really an if, is it?
No, the text is just being polite. It's a baseline reality for every human being.
And I think that's where people get stuck. We assume we produce our thoughts, like an assembly line. I thought it, so I must mean it.
But the source is really pointing to this illusion of control.
Yeah.
If you look at the neuroscience or even just try to meditate for 2 minutes,
It's impossible.
you realize the brain is less of a factory and more of a radio receiver picking up strange signals or a generator running on code you didn't write.
It's the autocomplete function gone rogue.
That's a perfect analogy.
Um,
The brain is constantly churning out suggestions, predictions based on everything.
Hmm.
Past trauma, survival needs.
so when it says if your thoughts aren't always under your control, that word always is doing a lot of work.
It is. It's admitting there are times when we're in control.
Hmm.
Solving a puzzle, writing an email. But it's pointing to all the other time.
The drive to work, the shower, the intrusive thoughts right before you fall asleep.
Exactly. The weird, random, sometimes dark thoughts that just appear. In this architecture model, that's just the ambient noise of the building. The HVAC system is humming. You didn't turn it on, but you have to live with it.
Okay, so we established that. My mind is a space where things happen to me, not just by me. Then the source turns the screw. It asks, which ones are really you?
And that's it. That's the load-bearing wall of the whole argument.
It's terrifying because if I have a thought, say a really ugly, judgmental thought about someone I love, I didn't ask for it, but it's in my head.
Am I a bad person? Is that the real me?
Yes, that's the panic.
But the source is suggesting a different way. It's asking you to become an auditor of your own mind. It says, look, if 99 thoughts are just biological static
Hmm.
and one is intentional,
Then the you is in choosing that one.
the you is found in the discrimination between them. You aren't the generator.
You're the curator.
Precisely. Go back to the word choice in the title. If we accept that the brain generates the options automatically, then choice is just the act of selection. The brain puts a messy first draft on your desk. You decide if you hit publish or delete.
But this is where the architecture feels rigged. Because it doesn't just say, pick the nice thoughts. It sets up this really difficult choice. It asks, the loud ones.
The loud ones. Let's
Yeah.
talk about that word. Why loud?
Well, from my perspective, loud means urgency. It's the thought that demands attention right now. It screams danger or I want that.
It's the pop-up ad in your brain.
Yes. And biologically, that makes sense, right? It's the survival system.
Absolutely. The amygdala, the fight or flight response. You don't want a quiet, subtle thought when a tiger is chasing you.
Yeah.
You want a siren.
You want RON.
Correct.
Hmm.
So fear, anger, desire, these are high voltage signals. They're designed by evolution to cut through all the other noise because for millennia, they kept us alive.
But now we're not running from tigers. We're sitting in traffic, and that same loud voice is screaming, honk at that guy. He's a moron.
And it feels true because of the volume.
That's it.
That's the key insight here. Volume masquerading as validity. We confuse the intensity of a feeling with the truth of it. I feel this so strongly, it must be who I really am.
But the source is hinting that this loudness is actually a distraction. It's the system's default setting, not the conscious one.
It's like a fire alarm. It's designed to be the loudest thing in the building, and for good reason.
But sometimes someone just burned popcorn.
Exactly. And if you act on every alarm, if you evacuate the building every single time, you're living a life of pure reaction. You're not the inhabitant of the architecture. You're a puppet of it.
So if the loud thoughts are the biological default, the burned popcorn, what's the alternative? The source gives us the other option, or the quiet ones you notice later.
Quiet ones. And now we hear the conscience part of the title entering the room.
And it's kind of cruel, isn't it, that the part of us that knows what's right, the conscience, is the quietest voice in the room.
It's a design challenge, let's say. Your conscience, or your more deliberative self,
Right.
it's slow, it takes energy, it can't compete with the megaphone of raw emotion. It whispers.
And then the source adds that final devastating blow that you notice later.
Time element. Later.
This is the part that really hit me. It implies that the real you is time delayed. We've all been there. You're in a fight, the loud voice takes over, you say the hurtful thing, and then, maybe 20 minutes later, maybe that night in bed,
The adrenaline is gone.
cortisol drops. The whole loud system powers down.
And then you hear it, that quiet little voice. You shouldn't have said that, or that wasn't really true. And that voice, the one that shows up after the battle is over, that's the conscience. The architecture finally allows the real you to get a word in.
But the tragedy is that it's often speaking to an empty room. The damage is done.
In an untrained mind, yes. That's the default setting. The loud thoughts own the present moment.
And the quiet thoughts own the past. We live in the impulse and we regret in the reflection.
That's a powerful way to put it. And it sounds bleak, but it brings us back to the title, The Architecture of Choice.
Right. If the building is rigged, where is the choice?
The choice is the renovation. The choice is the conscious effort to change the acoustics of the room. If you know the conscience is quiet, you have to actively lower the volume of the noise.
So this is where the idea of the pause, our whole show, becomes a structural necessity.
It's everything. The source asks, which ones are really you? Well, if you decide the quiet voice is the authentic one, your entire job becomes creating a space for that voice to be heard before later happens.
You have to pull later into now.
That is a brilliant way to say it. You have to simulate the conditions of hindsight in the middle of the crisis.
Okay, let's make that practical, because that sounds like a superpower. How does a person whose brain is screaming, "Send the angry email," actually do that?
It starts with just recognizing it, labeling it. When that urgent, loud thought hits, instead of saying, I am furious, you step back and say, I am experiencing a loud thought of anger.
You disidentify from it.
You see it for what it is.
Yeah.
The HVAC system kicking on, it's just noise.
It's looking at the fire alarm and saying, okay, I hear you, you're very loud, but I'm going to check for smoke before I break the window.
Yes, and then you just wait. The loud architecture is built for speed. It hates a vacuum. The quiet architecture needs patience. So if you can just delay your response count to 10, take a breath, walk away from the computer, you are literally waiting for the biological surge to pass.
You're waiting for the signal-to-noise ratio to improve.
And the real you is waiting in that gap.
Or maybe the real you is the gap.
The real you is the act of creating the gap. It's the one holding the door open for the quiet voice.
This also changes how I think about regret. That feeling we get later. We always beat ourselves up for it. Ugh, why didn't I realize that sooner?
But maybe regret is just data.
Yes, it's the blueprint revealing itself.
It's your conscience showing you where you should have built a supporting wall. Instead of getting lost in guilt, you use it. You map the architecture for next time. Okay, in that situation, the loud voice sounds like this.
It's pattern recognition. You start to recognize the specific ringtone of your anger or your anxiety, so you can choose not to answer the call so quickly next time.
And in time, you start to trust the quiet voice more. Even though it's subtle, even though it doesn't have that jolt of certainty, you learned it's the only one that leads to outcomes you can live with.
You know, we've been talking about our internal architecture, but we're living in a world that it's designed to amplify the loud.
Oh, absolutely. The external architecture is completely complicit.
Social media, the news cycle, advertising.
It's all engineered to hijack your alarm system. Outrage, fear, scarcity. It's all trying to get that loud, reactive part of you to take over.
So finding that quiet space inside isn't just a personal wellness thing. It's countercultural. It's an act of resistance.
It is. The world wants you to be a bundle of loud reflexes. That makes you a better consumer, a more engaged user. To choose the quiet, to choose conscience over impulse, that's an act of rebellion.
Conscience as rebellion. I like that. It sounds way better than self-control.
It's the ultimate rebellion. It's asserting your chosen self over your biological default.
So let's circle back to the central question one last time. Which ones are really you? We're saying it's the quiet ones, but
Yeah,
couldn't you argue the loud ones are also us? Just a part of us we're not proud of.
that's a fair point. I would say the loud ones are us in the sense that they are our hardware, they're our evolutionary history, our programming.
Yeah, just pretend they don't exist.
You can't. But are they the you that you choose to be defined by? Identity isn't just what happens inside your head.
It's what you endorse, what you act on.
Exactly. Identity is an editorial process. You're not the raw footage, you're the final cut. The loud thoughts are just the outtakes. The choice in the title is the power you have to leave them on the cutting room floor.
And the conscience is the director's vision for the film.
Yes. A very, very patient director.
You know, this whole perspective is incredibly freeing, actually. It means I don't have to police every single thought. I don't have to stop the loud thoughts from showing up, which is impossible anyway.
You just have to stop giving them microphone.
Let them shout in the background. Don't hand them the steering wheel.
Exactly.
So, for you listening, and we call this show The Pause for a reason, what's the one thing to take away from this? When you turn this off and go back into the loud world, what do you do?
I'd say this week, just try to watch for the loud spike. Catch yourself in one moment of high urgency when you feel that powerful pull to react immediately.
Identify the volume.
Identify the volume. Recognize it as a feature of the architecture, not a command from your soul. And then just force a delay. Initiate the pause. Ask yourself, if I wait just 5 minutes, will I still feel this exact same way?
And just see if the quiet voice shows up to the meeting.
It almost always does. It's just waiting for a break in the conversation.
It really is the polite guest at a very loud party.
And you have to be the host who says, everyone, quiet down for a second. I'd like to hear what they have to say.
What's so amazing about this framework is that it reframes being a good person or even just a functional person, not as a state you achieve, but as a constant mechanical process.
It's a maintenance job. You're always checking the wiring and trying to soundproof the rooms. It's work.
And it explains why it's so hard. We're fighting our own blueprint.
We are fighting millions of years of evolution with a part of the brain that's, a relatively new upgrade. We should probably cut ourselves some slack.
That's a nice thought. The building is old, the wiring is a mess, but we live here. We might as well figure out how it works.
And we have the tools to renovate. That's the choice.
Before we go, I want to leave everyone with one last thing to chew on. We've been talking about how the real you, the quiet you, often shows up later.
Yes.
Well, if that's true, does that mean we are constantly living as strangers to ourselves in the present moment? Are we only ever truly ourselves in hindsight?
That's the terrifying implication, isn't it? That we are always chasing our own identity, and we only catch up to it after the moment has already passed.
Unless
Unless we pause.
we pause.
If you can learn to bring that quiet into the now, you close that gap. You become yourself in real time. And maybe that's the whole point of the architecture.
Becoming yourself in real time. I like that. That's the mission.
It's a good mission.
Well, thank you for walking through the blueprints with me. And for all of you listening, I hope you can find a little quiet in the noise today. This has been The Pause